Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch PIT Championship for Europe. We are in Group B here. We are in our final match of the evening. It's actually going to be Singularity Ninjas up against Hammers Esports. Hammers Esports coming off a victory yesterday over X Alternate Attacks, and of course, Singularity Ninjas dropping 0-2 to Misfits yesterday. Hurix, we talked briefly before the break about this series and what we can kind of expect from both of these squads. We think probably Hammers Esports heading into this with a little bit of an upper hand, but Singularity Ninjas, they might catch us off guard here. What are you thinking about them potentially pulling the upset?
Well, I mean, as everybody knows, LDLC dropped out, and Singularity was the team that won the off-stream match to make their way into the tournament after getting, I think, third in the qualifier itself. So probably, I guess, in terms of the seeding, just to be fair, in terms of the seeding, it is the last place team right now. Going up against Hammers Esports, an invite team. Certainly, I think that at the moment, Hammers Esports is just a little bit stronger. I think they should be able to win this one out. But honestly, I mean, Singularity, from what we've seen from basically all these teams in EU, is that you can't really go off too much, at least not yet, with what has happened so far in recent memory and recent history, because of the fact that we haven't seen too much between these teams in this particular region. There just hasn't been that many games being played in EU, at least with teams at this level. I mean, you've been seeing stuff like Assembly, you've been seeing stuff like Strivewire come out, and certainly those have been great for guys like us looking to see what these teams can accomplish. But that's really been kind of it, and now we're going to be able to see these teams really kind of compete on maps that we haven't seen any teams really compete a lot on, like Volskaya, which is going to be our first map here between these two. And while, again, I do expect Hammers Esports to kind of have a slight advantage, still, I mean, it could go either way. We could see upsets like we've been seeing throughout this entire EU group stage. It's just been what we expect hasn't always been what is actually happening. So Hammers Esports, I still think that they're going to be able to pull out a 2-0. We'll have to see if Hammers Esports wins this first one, what map will come second from Singularity, and what goes on in their camp in terms of what to bring out. But I mean, still, Volskaya, two different 2CP maps in this map pool that could come out. So I guess this is really kind of anyone's game at this point. This is probably going to be one of the closer series, I think, but we'll have to see. I mean, Hammers Esports definitely contended well yesterday by taking a 2-0 over ATAX, and definitely looked very solid in doing so with their 3-0 on Nimbani, and then winning out on Nepal as well with a 3-0. So like I said, I think we should see Hammers Esports come ahead on this one, but Singularity, especially with Lelouch as well, with his little flanking ultimates as well with the Nano Visor, we'll have to see if that's going to be able to be a big contender here in this matchup. But I don't think it's going to be as much of one as what we saw yesterday up against Misfits on Nepal.
Well, heading into the previous two matches, we kind of expected, one or the other team to have an upper hand and actually be a lot closer than I actually personally expected here. So it could very well be the same case here, but I'm expecting Hammers Esports to be able to come through here and have a little bit of an advantage, given their performance yesterday, taking out, like you said, X Attacks, and then Singularity Ninjas, who are now 0-1, dropping their series, but a very difficult opponent that they had to actually take on there, and I believe it was Misfits. They lost 0-2, so that's a tough matchup. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Hammers Esports since they actually got signed previously from being the Chavs. So I think yesterday was their debut, if I'm not mistaken, as the new Hammers Esports. But we'll have to see what's going to be happening here on Volskaya Industries to get their this first map of the final series of the day underway here. It'll be Hammers Esports on the defense to get things started here, putting Singularity Ninjas on the attack. And let's see what we have from both sides to get things started.
It's looking like they're going to be going much the way of a dive comp here for the most part, coming out from Hammers Esports. And something to mention, I think, for Hammers Esports in particular, is that they did used to run a lot of triple tank, and interestingly enough, they would always run Fisher instead of what you typically see in a 3-tank composition, is that sustained DPS pressure that you would get from a soldier. They would actually run a Genji, and it would be quite often that you would see Sev actually on a Winston as well. At least in recent history, he did used to play a lot of Zarya and some D.Va as well, but you would also see Snizzle Nose on that Roadhog. So they used to run some pretty interesting stuff and they had some success with it, but now it seems like they're switching things up, going with a full dive composition. The only switch up I would say would be perhaps that Ana there, Shaz, as opposed to the Zenyatta that you sometimes see with this composition. And on the other side of things, we do see a triple tank composition actually coming out with Mandatrots. They're now on the attacking side with that Zarya there, and Nerfed actually going with the Reinhardt. Lelouch, the only DPS, going to be on the Genji. So actually a composition that we see a lot of times from Hammers Esports is going to actually be run by Singularity.
Let's see what they're able to get done with it here on the offensive end of things, and how much of firepower these teams are going to have to get things started. I think that's a big key to getting a series started. How alive you're really going to come to get the series underway here, as we already see Fisher taking a little bit of heat here. He's going to be able to get to the high ground, get to safety, kind of a little all over the place, but Hammers are turning their heads right now, keeping them kind of on their toes. But Mande actually comes through with the first kill onto the Winston. That's a nice start for these guys. The only frontliner, the only tank going to be taken down from Hammers, and potentially a window for Ninjas to move in and try to take this checkpoint rather quickly.
And Lelouch actually just going to be able to take out everybody on that high ground there, as Danny finds another, and Singularity definitely looking like they're going to be able to get control of this one, as Fisher, the only one left in a little bit of a duel here with Lelouch, who does actually finish that one off after getting a little bit of healing there from Lend. And we'll have to see if they're going to be able to snowball onto this second point. They have a lot of options here going into this fight. 7 minutes on the clock as well.
We actually see a couple of comp changes come out there from Hammers. The Dragon Blade comes out there from Lelouch. He gets nano boosted up, finds 3 picks immediately on the Shad 7 Chris. There's a 4th one. The Dragon Blade from Fisher trying to turn this fight around. Can he get the deed done? He picks up 1 kill, and the most dangerous push of all, Hurix really came alive there as they pick up at least two ticks of it. They're going to be able to contest on the defensive end of things, but for how long? As we do see Snizzle actually making a change over to May, trying to stall this one out.
Luckily for Singularity, Kellix had that sound barrier ready to go, able to keep them alive long enough for Lin to get back in there. Wall coming down from the May, almost taking out. Oh, they do wind up taking up 2 members here. Graviton. Oh, I'm sorry, the pulse bomb coming out from Shaz. He finds 2, and that's going to back Singularity up, as Lelouch actually still holding on and taking some kills before he actually eventually does die off, and now getting himself up to 80% for what looks like is going to be another opportunity for a Dragon Blade to come out. But man, Hammers Esports barely hanging on there. And now 5:50 on the clock for just 1 tick. So really, Singularity only has to run in and get a couple of opening picks and really just set a precedent for themselves to create some momentum for a very short while to be able to close this side of their map out.
That was extremely worrying for Hammers there, as they did lose 2 ticks here. We're going to see them move back in. Fisher finding the first pick onto Lelouch. That means more than likely, no, he actually gets taken down there by Danny. That was surprising, as Nerf came through behind with the charge, but ultimately there's no reason for them to push in without a member, because he's so far behind. Fisher will be able to get back much quicker and engage in this fight. And with 5:15 to work with, there's a lot of time on the board, and plenty of ults now getting charged up, as well as Lind, Lelouch, and Nerfed are all good to go. I'm looking for a big combo again. A hooked onto Nerfed comes through. He is saved by the projected barrier, but I'm looking for the Nano Blade to come through.
And that is going to come out. It is going to be Lelouch actually going with it. He's going to be able to find 2 kills to open things up. We talked about how they only need a couple of kills just to open things up, and Lelouch finds even more than that, and that's going to be 4:51 on the time bank. A Singularity caps out the second point in convincing fashion here up against Hammers Esports, and certainly Volskaya looking like one of those toss-up maps that really, the team that didn't look like they could have been able to take it against another, able to really kind of step up. And obviously Lelouch is a big pickup for these guys. I think they just picked him back up right before the qualifier there. I think it was Honey on their team before, that he actually wound up coming back in. He was on this team in the past, and then they brought him back, and he's been a very stellar performer for these guys ever since coming back. Certainly on this Genji, but as well on the Soldier, when he's given the opportunity, he really steps up for the team and makes the plays that they need to have him make, really.
Well, impact plays coming out there from him and the rest of the squad, able to take that one in a just tremendous time. 4:51, excuse me, to actually work with. And we'll see what they're able to do on the other end of things, because like you said, we head to these maps, and although, this wasn't picked, usually you do see teams that are thought to have a disadvantage heading into the match. Pick these kind of maps because it can work in their favor. But not to say that Singularity Ninjas are by any means, the worst of these two teams. We're yet to see them face off because Singularity had such a difficult matchup yesterday up against Misfits. Let's see what they get done on the defensive side of things as they do actually move over to a McCree pick with Mande. That's pretty much the big change that we see from these guys. The only change, as a matter of fact.
And Trodster on that McCree as well. And again, Hammers Esports back on this dive composition. We have to kind of bring up the point now that Hammers Esports, of course, always kind of known for running that triple tank setup, much like the Hammers Esports of old that are now LG Evil. Very well known for running that that tank composition. Did well with that. Fisher has always done well with the Genji, but of course the old Hammers Esports transitioned well into a DPS style, but maybe this Hammers Esports is going to have a little bit harder of a time. We'll have to see.
Looking to make their move and jump into the back line here. A few shots being picked up there from Mande, as he will get the Orb of Discord from Shaz way in the back. A little dispersed. Snizzle going to be dropped, though, as it was Lelouch deflecting the Helix back to him and taking that pick for himself. And this is looking like Singularity Ninjas just want to get a little aggressive off this one. I see why not. But Christopher actually finds a pick onto the Genji here and opening up a window for these guys to move in on the side of Hammers.
And backing up the entire team onto the point. They're not in a very good position here at all, as Fisher is looking to just kind of zone them back to the back of the point, pulling them back a little bit as Danny actually finds the kill on Christopher. Sev looking for a little bit of damage with that pulse bomb. Not going to find any picks with it, which is certainly what they wanted with that. And now Shaz hasn't really had too much opportunities to really get a lot of damage out initially, as he's been kind of zoned off a little bit, I would say, by Lelouch. But perhaps this is an opportunity now, as he's going to go ahead and get up on this high ground and have a fantastic vantage point now to deal with these guys up here. But Shaz getting dangerously low already.
Fisher's going to be taken out by the McCree. Thankfully, the rest of the squad seem to be cleaning it up for the most part here. It's a 2-on-1, 2-on-2 on the point now. It's just a Lucio roaming around here, and I think that Snizzle should get this with Sev. They take the kill on the Kelix here. There's no opportunity for the rest of Singularity Ninjas to move back to the point. So quite a bit slower, I would say, from Hammers Esports here, X. But the fact that they pick up this checkpoint means they will be able to move in with quite a few ultimates into this next fight.
Definitely looking for Fisher to try to make a play here, but of course he's going to be contesting the Nano Blade as opposed to his regular Dragon Blade that's going to come out from Lelouch. We saw Lelouch actually on the offensive side really doing a lot of great things when that blade is able to come out. And perhaps this is another opportunity for him to do just the same on the defense. And a nice hook's coming out from Fisher. That's going to slow down the pace of the attack for sure, as these guys are going to have to pull back after that initial pick coming out from Danny onto Fisher.
And the fact that they got that pick pretty much opens up themselves to, having 6 ultimates ready to go from the defense. The same is going to be true for the offense. So this could be very bloody. I want to see what they decide to use. Does Hammers, kind of, throw them out all at once, or do they want to, manage them properly? The same with the defensive side could be said here. If they think that, they're on the verge of losing the point, they might as well drop them here. Deadeye to get things started here for the defense to zone him back a little bit, but ultimately he's not going to be able to find anything with it.
We will see Snizzlenose looking for an opportunity. 6 ults stacked up now for Hammers Esports as they're looking to unleash as many as they need to try to get security of this point. And TacVisor coming out just to kind of zone Lelouch off. A nice Earthshatter coming out actually from Nerf before he's killed off, and it looks as though Hammers Esports is able to take the kills that they need. But the question is, are they going to be able to survive on the point long enough to keep control of this point and get the cap in their favor?
Well, Hurix, they've got a Primal Rage to knock those guys off the point. There is one sitting around here. They're going to get a late kill onto Kelix there. There's a Dragon Blade coming up from Lelouch. He's immediately taken down. Diva is on the point, trying to do what he can at this point in time. There's a hook on to Christopher. Barely manages to pop his ultimate in the nick of time here, trying to knock him off the point as best as he can. Snizzle coming through with some big pickups along with Sev. Going to be able to knock the Ana off the point, and just like that, they are going to finish out the map here with 420 on the board, and Hammers Esports dominating point B push.
Definitely, both teams looking like they're pretty solid attack, but both, of course, struggling on the defense. As that is a pretty solid time on Volskaya for both teams, actually. We'll have to see if any team can really mount a solid defense here going into their second set of pushes, or is it going to be one of those games where we see you know, a 6-5 score line just for this one map. I mean, only time will tell at this stage. Of course, we will see Hammers Esports once again attacking as they have less time on their respective time bank. And a 2-2-2, I think the exact same composition actually setting up for the defensive side of Singularity here. So nothing changed at all from either team here, as Hammers Esports obviously feels pretty comfortable about what they pulled off there on the attacking side.
I'm really surprised at how well Hammers executed there for that second push. I mean, it wasn't even the first push, because I guess you could say Fisher got picked off there by Danny, and then they were forced to regroup. 6 ults against 6 ults. If Christopher had been picked off, he was just a fraction of HP from getting picked off. He had been hooked in there by Danny, and then pops the Primal Rage immediately. Just, oh man, he was so close to dying. If he had died, I think that would have been the end of that push, but thankfully, he was able to keep himself alive, and Snizzlenose, along with Sev, coming up clutch for these guys. They've got 4-15 on the board to try to get something done.
And we're seeing Hammers Esports coming up now and getting some aggression towards Lelouch, actually, who does get the Discord, forced himself back there, but nonetheless, we already see Fisher on the point trying to get some ticks towards their scoreline. And Shaz now setting up, getting contested a little bit here, but they are in a great position now. Lelouch going to go ahead and jump up here to try to contest it. Discord's still out for him, and actually Snizzlenose able this time to push him out, but Lelouch going to find that kill nonetheless.
Yeah, it was Fisher just getting a little too aggressive here. Lelouch, ooh, does get picked up there by the headshot from Snizzle. They do lose Shaz, excuse me. So they've got a little bit of an advantage to move into this next fight, since Lelouch is just now coming off of respawn. One of their guys is still in the back in Tracer, if I'm not mistaken. They have a numbers advantage. What can they do with it?
Sev right now trying to get behind enemy lines at the moment just to try to get some extra little damage out. He gave away his position, I think, a little bit too early. He should have been able to get himself into a better position before giving that away, and now he's going to be able to jump these guys off the point. Discord coming out, Pulse Bomb coming out as well. A nice stick to come out and kill off Danny here. Give them a little bit extra control with the tank line, and it looks like they're trying to take out Nerf next.
They actually follow up off of that. There's Snizzle again coming up clutch for his squad here, landing the shots they need, and that numbers advantage here will mean the difference for these guys, who will eventually capture point A, get themselves about a decent amount of time to actually work with for this next checkpoint. And look at the ults starting to come up for them. Christopher, Snizzle, Fisher, Shaz are all really close to coming up here. Same for the defensive end though, so about 3:05 to go for Hammers Esports, who didn't even need close to that amount of time to get this second checkpoint last time.
That Transcendence is going to mean a lot into this next fight here. Shaz looking to make the most of that, as Tomsy's not going to have the option to use that sound barrier, whereas Keldex will. So now it becomes a question of how these support ults are going to match up. Obviously, both teams with the firepower to make them, make those kills actually happen. It's really going to come down to these supports for sure.
Excuse me, Lelouch actually gets the nano boost. He opts not to pop the Dragon Blade here. Didn't really need it, as he was just able to get aggressive with the rest of his squad and back them off for the time being. Thankfully, though, for Hammers, they didn't use any ultimates. Now they have 6 up against 3, maybe 4 if Danny can get his up in time, but they have a severe advantage going into this next engagement. I'm looking for Fisher and Snizzlenose again to come up big for these guys like they did the last time they pushed this.
The good news is that Tomsy was able to generate a lot of that charge to be able to get that sound barrier up, and I think it was about 40% he was able to get. So now they're going to be able to entry with that. Shaz going to be able to jump in as well and get that Transcendence later into the fight. Fisher needs to be kept alive, though, here if they want to hold on to this one.
Ooh, he actually gets taken down as he unsheaths the blade. Tac Visor comes out as well from Snizzle. They use everything here, Hurex, and Lelouch gets a little bit of deflect back to himself here. He's still remaining in this fight. He eventually will be taken down, but it's basically Snizzle and Sev against the world. They're not going to be lasting too much longer. I don't think they do get the pick there onto Danny. Can they pull off the dream? I don't think so, because the respawns are so close here for the defensive side.
And, they were pretty close there in terms of trying to get that one, but just initially, Lelouch just able to find that pick on the Fisher. That was huge for them, but we are going to be seeing him swap over to the Soldier instead, as Snizzlenose goes over to that Roadhog and make that swap up. So basically swapping out that Genji, and then Sev as well, actually making a swap himself, going over to a Zarya. Otherwise, on the defense, nothing changed at all here. Shaz actually making that swap over to the Ana as well from that Zenyatta, so they're going over to that 3-tank strat that they know all too well, with Fisher actually this time on the Soldier.
A lot to work with here for Singularity. I'm looking for a Pulse Bomb, but Nerf's actually going to be dropped there. Pulse Bomb out for Mendy, not able to stick onto anything here. which means they're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage moving into this fight, I think, unless Hammers don't want to press their advantage. I mean, it's a 6-on-5 here. Now that Nerf is back up, it's not going to be making much of a difference. Christopher going to get hooked in. He's going to be taken down, and this should be the end of this push for Hammers.
Really, actually, kind of impressive there with Lelouch just staying alive in that corner against a Soldier and a Roadhog for so very long. Was able to just kind of take away some of that pressure from guys like Nerf, who were just trying to hold on to that point, and again, just kind of hold their ground on that point. But nonetheless, we are going to be seeing the defense stacking everything up here. Manitrodster swapping over to that Zarya. Not going to really have too many options here for himself, but we will see the Nano Boost come out, and a nice set of ultimates coming out as Nerf actually lands the Earth Shatter as well.
That was a big shatter for these guys, man. We're in overtime now. It's just Snizzle on the point. He's going to be taken down in a matter of seconds. And Hammers Esports only managing to put 3 points up on the board here on Bull Sky Industries. I don't think that's going to be tough at all for Singularity to be able to match.
And again, what happens here, if we do see the draw, it will be a tie, and we'll just move right into the next map, which will be map number 2. I'm not sure exactly what happens. I think it will be a coin flip, if I'm not mistaken, to find who actually determines the map. Because obviously, the way that this tournament works is whoever winds up losing the map then gets the option to pick their map and their side as well. But if it goes into a tie, I think I'm pretty sure it's a coin flip, actually, to determine. But we'll find out from our admins if that does actually happen. Of course, 4:51 on the clock is a lot of time to work with now if you're Singularity, to try to close out the map, make it 4-3 in your favor, especially since they were able to do it in such a convincing fashion the last time around. But, I mean, surely the same thing could be said about Hammers Esports, who did actually just get shut out a little bit with, I mean, what actually amounted to 450 in total time there. And if we do see the first point capped out by Singularity, it will amount to 521 in total time. So, I mean, pretty similar time banks here. Only about 30 seconds difference, or 31 seconds to be exact, but only moments away from finding out here if Singularity is going to be able to tie this up, or not even, or perhaps even win the map.
Hammers Esports, a little bit of a different defensive composition here this time around, as opposed to last time, where I think they had more of a little bit of a dive-heavy composition, if I'm not mistaken. They had a Winston there as well, so a couple of changes this time around. We'll have to see if it actually does fare for them. How it fares, I guess I should say. Here's Fisher taking a little bit of pressure there from Lelouch. There's the first pick. Nerf going to be taken down here, make it 2. Hammers Esports finding some good picks to get things started. Definitely a solid sign for the defensive side of things.
And I mean, really, what they want to do here is try to take out Fisher, or at least kind of push him off as much as possible so that he can't have as much effectiveness as what we've seen so far from him in this series. And that's a lot of that's going to be basically on Snizzlenose and Sev here, and of course Fisher to a lesser extent, but he's going to be putting as much of his pressure into that guy as possible to kind of eliminate him. And a nice hook from Snizzlenose, definitely going to be setting them up in a great position here.
Fisher is punching out the damage up top. They almost found a pick there onto Danny, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But actually hooked in Christopher and was under a bit of pressure. A pick onto Snizzle, though, is not a good sign for the defensive side of things. There's a Nano Boost actually going to be brought out here. Christopher put to sleep on the side here. No value whatsoever out of that Nano Boost, which is really unfortunate for these guys. Danny is going to be picked off, though. I'm looking at Seb, who's nearly fully charged. Oh, he barely saves his teammates live with the projected barrier at the very last second the charge came through. Lelouch is trying to follow up with this. Graviton Surge comes out as well for the offense, but this is so back and forth. Hammers Esports on their back foot.
And Sev pulling away. Oh, not going to be able to pull away, as Lind able to find that last little bit of damage, and he pulls away with about 10 of his own HP. And looks like Singularity trying to mount another attack here. Danny just going forward, and now Nerf getting back into position. It should be pretty easy fight here for Singularity to be able to close this one out, as it is going to be only 4 members of Hammers Esports here to be able to contest this, at least initially here.
Backvisor being dropped by Fisher. What can he get from it? We also see the whole hog come out from Sizzle, trying to knock them off the point. Not the best ultimate from Fisher, unfortunately. Didn't have much of a vantage point there. We was trying to see Lelouch around the side up top, but just not able to find it. There's an Earth Shatter coming out as well. Sound barrier for both sides. Oh my goodness, the Graviton Surge connects onto a few from Seb. Do they follow up? There's the pick on an ultimate as well, coming out onto Nerf. Lelouch with his own tactical visor up top. Not a lot of damage being punched out, but Singularity are going to be able to capture this first checkpoint off of that play.
So now they get that extra little 30 seconds in their time bank. They don't have too many options to push this point, so I imagine we won't see a snowball happen, at least initially, unless we see some insane picks on someone like Shaz in particular. I think would be a big one. And he's actually contesting Lelouch. I don't like that at all. Again, he's very, very important here to this first fight to make sure that they hold this one out and try to get a little bit of an ult advantage going into the next one. But 2:20 remaining on the clock here for Singularity to try to close this one out. Otherwise, this will go into a tie. We'll move on to that second map.
Not a lot of time, though, unfortunately, to work with. And they used all of their ultimates in the last fight, so it's going to favor Hammers Esports in terms of ults. There's a nano boost onto Christopher. He's going to be able to find a pick, follows up with a fire strike, will be able to grab the kill onto Mande as well. And that's going to be a failed push coming out on the side of Singularity. But thankfully, they did pull out a couple of ultimates. They actually just one. It was just Shaz's. Yeah, they didn't use anything else there, Yurk. So not a lot really used from Hammers, and they come up with about 30+ seconds off of the time bank.
And on the next one, they really, I mean, we're really going to see Hammers Esports more than likely laying into that shield, trying to get Fisher and Snizzle Nose just put as much damage pressure into that shield as possible, try to get it down low enough so that Christopher can go ahead with that Earth Shatter, propagate through the shield, and find a lot of value with it to try to shut these guys down with only really that ult used if possible. And they are already putting as much damage as they can at the shield, and we see Singularity noticing that, pulling around to the side, going for an alternate route where they can get up close and personal, not have to worry about that as much, as well as get high ground for themselves as well.
High ground from both teams. There's a charge from Christopher. Finds the pin into Nerfed. Earth Shatter not able to come through. He gets hooked in by Danny. He's going to be taken down. The Graviton Surge as well comes out from both sides. Nano Boost onto Nerf is going to help them clean it up. And just like that, that's going to be a pretty clean wipe coming out on the side of Singularity. Still a few guys to deal with, though. You've got Tomsy up top, Shaz as well. They have the Reinhardt coming around the corner. What can Christopher do? There's a Shatter. Not able to really get a whole lot. He gets charged into. He's just going to be dropped in a matter of seconds here. They have one tick on the board, 1.5 at this point. Make it 2. The whole hog knocks him off the point, and Singularity Ninjas are on the verge of taking this map.
Just a couple more kills, as this is just going to turn into a stagger here. Time may wear down, but I think it should go in the way of Singularity. May off the point at the moment. Nice look coming out onto Christopher there from Danny, and they're just moments away from securing this, but a kill coming out from Fisher. Is this potentially just a moment here where Hammers might be able to come back? It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and that's going to be with 10 seconds left. 4-3 to Singularity as they take it 1-0 on the set now, with Hammers Esports the option to go ahead and pick their map and their side now. But man, Singularity definitely impressing, I think.
Congrats to those guys for taking a map #1 victory over Hammers Esports. I really didn't see that coming at the start of the series, but as it progressed throughout that map, they really started to come alive. No one, I mean, there really wasn't too many, instances from Singularity in which they had one playmaker, aside from maybe Lelouch quite a few times there, but these guys were virtually unstoppable throughout that second push on point B. And most of the map itself, as they find that first victory, like you said, we'll see what map #2 is going to be. And if we could potentially be heading back to Hollywood or Dorado, or, Hollywood or Nepal like we had seen before. And we've actually have Hanamura in the mix. So potentially an opportunity to actually see both 2 CP maps in the mix here in the series.
So what we saw yesterday from Hammers Esports was a pretty stellar performance on Numbani. I mean, they did pretty well on Nepal as well, so I think they were going to want to stick away from those 2 CP maps, and I imagine that's going to be the case. But the question is going to be which one they want to go for. They looked okay on Numbani yesterday. I think they're going to probably pull out either Numbani or Hollywood. More than likely going to be Hollywood. Okay, so it is going to be Hollywood that they do wind up picking out, and now they're going to determine their side. But going up against Singularity, I mean, Lelouch, as we've been talking about this entire time pretty much, is just a stellar performer for this team. I mean, definitely has been a standout throughout this tournament, I would say. And I think he's going to be able to continue that. And really, I mean, Hammers Esports needs to be able to contest these guys, starting in particular with Lelouch, I think, to be able to win this one out.
This will be interesting. Hammers Esports are voting to attack first on their map of choice, like we had said, is going to be Hollywood. And Singularity, let's see what they can get done on the defensive end of things. I mean, Singularity's 0-1 in the standings, Hammers 1-0. So, if they're able to take this one, it would even them both out at 1-1. I think that would put 4 teams at 1-1 in the Group B, which is pretty neck and neck for the most part. And the only 0-2 team would be ex-alternate attacks, who still looked really good in their series up against Dignitas today. So all these teams in Group B seem to pretty much be neck and neck for the most part, as we've seen throughout all these series today here, X. Let's see what we have as teams start to shape up their team compositions here.
Well, what I think is kind of interesting is that, now that you mention it, I mean, 1-1 for 4 of the teams, and 2-1 or 2-0 now. Only one team has been able to accomplish that, and of course, that team is Misfits, as kind of expected in alternate attacks. Unable, despite some okay performance, definitely didn't look so good against Hammers yesterday, but looked a lot better today, I would say. 1-1 across the board for 4 of these teams. Looking back to Group A, all 6 of those teams were 1-1 after week 2. So very similar performances, I would say, for those teams. But of course, we will have to see Hammers lose for that to happen, because obviously right now only 2 of those teams are 1-1. And it really is going to come down to this particular matchup to determine if that's going to be a similar scenario from Group A here, if Hammers Esports winds up losing this one.
On the defensive side of things, we see a 2-2-2 come out from Singularity. Lelouch going back to the Genji. Mande going to be sticking on Soldier 76 here. So nothing too out of the ordinary in terms of composition. On the offensive side of things, we do see the triple tank setup from Hammers Esports. Like you had mentioned, this is what they like to run. Let's see what they can get done with it here to get things started.
Definitely looking for Lelouch to be a top performer here for Singularity. Needs to come out and make a lot of good plays, but obviously Minitrodster on the Soldier at the moment, and they're running that 3-tank strat here on the side of Hammers with Fisher on the Genji, so that classic strat that we're used to seeing from these guys, going back to something a little bit more comfortable, I think.
Lelouch a little close to being picked off there, knows that that hook is down. Christopher finding the first pick, though, onto Lind. Genji in the backline, make it 2 as Fisher picks up the kill. A 3rd kill comes through from Hammers, and just like that, they're going to be on the verge of taking this first checkpoint rather quickly here on Hollywood.
And they should be able to kill Kelix, and they do just that. And then, like you said, in convincing fashion, they do manage to take that first point, and looks like Hollywood was a great pick for them, as they were able to just go back over to their comfort composition, running that 3-tank strat with Fisher on the Genji. This is not something that a lot of teams typically do, but certainly these guys look pretty good with it. I mean, sometimes when you might see it, it's typically, I would say, it kind of more common to see a diva with this one, but nonetheless, they're going to be running it the way that they see fit, and that is without it.
A Widowmaker as well coming out from Lelouch, making the change from the Genji. See if he can find any picks here. No success just yet. He is looking for Fisher. Not going to be able to find anything. There's an Earth Shatter coming out from Christopher. Able to follow up off of this one. Finds 1 kill. Almost gets the 2nd. Danny will be taken down. There's the wipe coming out. Essentially just 2 supports remaining from Lind and Kelix, who back off of this one. And Hammers Esports steamrolling here through Hollywood.
Definitely looking fantastic at the moment. Lelouch swapping back over to the Genji now, so no ult charge for him as he made that swap. Minitrodster making a swap as well, as they're going over to that same composition, 3-tank strat with just the 1 Genji there.
Dragon Blade comes out as well for Fisher. He gets nano boosted up, finds 2 kills with it, looking for a 3rd. Mande not really standing a chance. He is going to be forced to back off of this one. They don't have a whole lot of support in the area. Danny is going to be taken out in a matter of seconds here, and they're going to find themselves with basically over 5:30 to work with. 5:45 on the clock here to be able to come down the final stretch. That is an unbelievable amount of time for Hammers to work with.
And look at what they have in their loadout. I mean, they have the Graviton Surge, they have the Whole Hog to just pump right into it, they have Sound Barrier to really kind of make a momentum shift should they need it, or really kind of set a precedent to create momentum early on in the fight and engage with it. And then pretty soon, Christopher is going to have his Earth Shatter as well. I mean, really, the only kind of contestant that we're going to be able to see is the Earth Shatter coming out from Nerfed.
There's a Graviton Surge to get things started from Sev. Sound Barrier now out for both the squads here. There's the Earth Shatter from Nerf. Olog as well. Snizzle trying to get something done. Doesn't really get a whole lot. He just kind of pushes Nerf back, but no kills are going to come from that one. And it looks like Hammers Esports might be backed off a little bit, especially since Lelouch got the kill onto Tomzy. This is the first sign of defense we've actually seen from Singularity on this map yet.
And a very similar position too. Again, as we mentioned before, when a team typically gets ran over on those first 2 points, this is where they make that first contest, as again they have that opportunity to build their ultimates up and really kind of take advantage of that high ground up there as well. And then falling down. A nice Earthshatter to start things off, though, as Hammers Esports needs to make the most of that. Not really in a position to do that, though. Looks like Lin might be taken out here by Fisher, but a nice barrier coming out there. And that's for Mandatrazer to save the life of the Ana on his team.
And not a lot of follow-up off of that Earthshatter, unfortunately. Now Lelouch bringing out his own Dragon Blade, gets hit with a Bio Grenade, is able to keep himself alive thanks to Lin coming through with some nice heals. Eventually, he'll be taken down. The rest of the Singularity squad are going to be able to mop up this fight and buy themselves a little bit more time on the defensive side of things. Still 4 minutes to work with, 3 ults as well here for Singularity, who are going to have to do just what they've been doing the last minute and a half if they want to stand any chance against Hammers here in Hollywood.
Let's see if Lin can get himself into a nice position to get a nice Biotic Grenade into what I imagine is going to be the Graviton Surge combo coming out with Danny as well, just going with the whole hog. They get the Biotic Grenade, and they wipe the floor with the 2 tanks there. And the only one left up is Sev. He's going to get hooked out and finished off by Danny. And they easily wipe the floor there with Hammers Esports, knocking them back to the spawn. And they've looked a lot better here in this phase of the map. And especially since they swapped back over to that triple tank composition, I guess kind of like a Hammers Esports style composition, you could say, with Lelouch, the solo DPS on a Genji here, as opposed to what would be standard as a soldier.
Dragon Blade now out for Fisher, gets the nano boost as well. We hear the Earthshatter come through. Fisher picks up 2, slicing and dicing all over the place right there. There's an Earthshatter from Christopher on the back end. That's going to connect onto a 3 of them. Not a lot of follow-up, unfortunately, here. They're going to be forced to just go back to the payload, but thankfully for Hammers, they have the numbers advantage moving forward. Danny has been a playmaker on the side of Singularity here on Hollywood, but he's actually taken down 3 now remaining on the payload. Make it 4 here on the side of Singularity, who still have 235 to hold off. And Hammers Esports are going to be forced back off of this thanks to the big regroup coming out from the side of Singularity.
They've only been slowly pushing this payload. Singularity able to just continue coming back and then regaining composure here. We're going to be seeing Mandatrazer looking for an opportunity now to go for that Graviton. And he does. We do see the Graviton actually come out first from Sev, and now Mandatrazer are going to be pulling the supports back into one of his own. And they land the Biotic Grenade and they wipe them up.
They actually used the Nano Blade from Lelouch. I don't think it was necessary. They used, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 ultimates there from Singularity to clean that up. On the other end of things, with 2 minutes to go, they have basically one team fight will secure that 3rd checkpoint on the side of Hammers Esports, and they've got quite a few ultimates. Lelouch is way out of position here. He gets caught by Snizzlenose, and that's going to be Hammers moving into this engagement with a 5-on-6 advantage. I'm looking for Fisher to dive up in the air. He gets the Nano Boost. Dragon Blade's out now. Looking for the Lucio. Not quite able to find him. Maybe the Reinhardt nerfed under a lot of heat. He finally gets taken down. Only 1 kill with the Nano Blade. Whole Hog as well comes out from Danny. They're going to be able to turn this one back in their favor, and Hammers Esports now on the verge of coming through with the final checkpoint.
They still need to find a couple of kills, though. Danny definitely hanging on a little bit here in the last stages. Does finally die off as Nerfed is looking for an opportunity with that Earthshatter. Finds it, but not any kills initially. Looking to find the kill on the Christopher. Finds it as well, and he's looking for the charge. Not going to get that. And it looks like that sleep should kind of settle things, but they still need to find that kill on Lelouch here with the soldier. And they actually get backed off of the point completely, and that's 102 as Hammers Esports finally closes it out. But certainly, I mean, was a little back and forth there at the end and looked a lot better initially on that the first two stages. I don't think we've yet to see really any team do quite well on the first 2 points here on Nimbani. I mean, even yet. I mean, throughout this entire Group B stage.
Well, the important thing for Hammers is that they actually finished with 102 rather than 59. Because if we do see Singularity finish in overtime, they won't be given any time to make a second push, which could make for a very interesting scenario moving forward. Now, of course, they're going to still have to come through with the rest of the map. Still going to have a lot of time to work with, of course, to see what's going to happen here. But big turnaround from Singularity to buy themselves quite a few of time, because it was 5:45 after getting that second checkpoint is what Hammers had to push the remaining part of the map. Holding them to 102, I could definitely say that's a pretty solid defense for the 3rd checkpoint from Singularity.
But look at this defensive composition. I mean, obviously from the attacking side here of Singularity, we're going to be seeing that triple DPS composition on the dive, Lind on the Zenyatta. Much expected there. Maybe a switch up somewhere might happen before those last 35 seconds tick down and we see the attack start. But I think the more interesting factor here is on the defensive side with Fisher here on the Mei. And they still have that triple tank setup. Again, Fisher, the lone DPS for this team here. But they've opted for the Mei, which is kind of interesting, I think. I mean, it should give them good spacing as long as Fisher kind of stays near guys like Shaz and just kind of pushes these guys off. I mean, it's going to create spacing for the rest of the team to kind of do what they need to do. And with a front line like what you have with Hammers Esports, maybe that's going to create all the difference that they need to be able to keep their supports alive against the dive composition and really kind of take it to the front line here.
Let's see what Hammers can get done with the very tanky composition. It's still triple tank. I guess you could say 3.5 with Fisher on that Mei, like you were mentioning here. And what they're going to be able to get done against this dive composition coming out from Singularity. We see a bit of a flank from Mandy Troudster. He's actually put to sleep. That should be an easy kill coming out for Snizzle and company. There's 3 on the board now for Hammers, who are definitely starting out on the right foot on the defensive side.
We will see Hammers Esports backing these guys up at the moment. Certainly a great start for them initially to be able to close out that first attack. And now, if they're going to be able to make a couple more, they're going to be in a great position now to hold this one out. Mandy Troudster actually taken out by Snizzle Nose. That's a huge pick for them.
It certainly is, and I think they might want to get a little aggressive off this one. Actually, they're just going to pull back here and not try to get too over-aggressive, because that could definitely end in a bad situation for them with already a minute off the board here. They're looking like they're, making a decent hold. Their ult charge isn't honestly what I would expect it to be compared to what we see from Singularity at this point in time, but another pick from Snizzle, finding the Tracer again here, and still continuing their dominance on the defensive side of things for point A.
Holding on and ripping a lot of time off the time bank, but still, I mean, not a lot of ult charge for them, as we have seen a very slow-paced attack so far, and the defense not able to generate all too much quite yet. We do see them trying to take Fisher out, forced to go into that block, and now Blizzard not at the ready still yet, and they really want to get this available as soon as possible to be able to hold this point out.
Big Transcendence from Lind is going to be able to keep Lelouch alive throughout most of that whole hog, and then his Dragon Blade able to find a lot, but thankfully the rest of the squad are using their ultimates. That's Singularity capping point A in about 2 minutes and 5 seconds here, as it looks like all of Hammers thankfully will get the short spawn. They didn't trickle back into it, but Singularity on a little bit slower of a pace, but still plenty of time to get through this next phase of the map and look, to be able to push to the end of this one.
I mean, Blizzard should be able to use right in the opening of this gate here. They should be able to get a lot of value out of it, but they're going to throw it right in. Wall going to come down. They should be able to find the kill on Lind, as well as this soldier more than likely. We'll have to see if Fisher actually does die off, though, and indeed that is going to be the case as Nerf finds that kill.
Yeah, that Blizzard just trying to get themselves a little bit of added time here. Really wasn't able to combo it with anything. On the back side of things, though, Snizzle finding 2 picks for himself. And maybe this could be Singularity just being forced to get a full regroup. We have Mandy Troudster still looking for a flank way deep in the back here, which is a little interesting to say the least. We'll have to see if he's able to find anything. They know he's around. He just can't afford to get picked off by Snizzle like he has multiple times before that first checkpoint.
Now with Fisher making that swap off of the Mei, it looks like we are going to be seeing the nano boost coming out there, and that's actually from Shaz. Looks like they're going to be backing them up pretty easily, I would say, as Christopher looking for an opportunity to Earthshatter in the next one, as he was able to hold on this time. And Sev actually with the Graviton, they're in a great position to hold this one out on the defensive side. 3 minutes left in the time bank here, but again, they just look like they're in a pretty solid spot right now.
Especially with 3 or 4 ults ready to go here. There's going to actually use the Dragon Blade. Oh man, Christopher hits him with the Earthshatter on the side. Fisher going to be able to wrap that one up, though. Danny comes through with the kill with the Tactical Visor, potentially 2. Despite losing the Dragon Blade from Lelouch really early on, they do turn this one back around, get the team wipe, and are going to be able to continue to trudge forward here with that payload. Still plenty of time, though, to get a regroup from Hammers to defend before the second checkpoint is captured.
They got tremendous value out of that sound barrier there to be able to hold on there. Nerf able to win out that little duel between the Reinhardts, and now we're going to be seeing Tomsy unleash his own. Graviton coming out as well, and they're looking for an opportunity here. Charge going to come out from Christopher onto Nerf. They're going to find that kill as well.
Oh man, that was so unfortunate that that charge came through because Lind had he had Transcendence into that Graviton Surge, but wasn't quite able to get to his tank in time to be able to save him. So a good start there of that fight from Hammers Esports, able to shut him down now with 150 to go. And given how far this spawn is here, it's really not much time to work with, I would say, from the side of Singularity.
Certainly looks like Hammers Esports might be able to tie this series up, but still, I mean, we have a lot of map left to go. Manitries are looking for an opportunity here to try to get a pick with this pulse bomb. Certainly getting a lot of damage off on Fisher to start things off. A nice Earth Shatter, though.
They come out from the same side on the other end, though, as both of them going to use it. A couple of kills coming through as Mande was taken down by his old pulse bomb there. He's going to be able to find one, and this is Singularity cleaning up the fight here. Just need to take care of Snizzle and Tomzy. This will be a second checkpoint captured. Not going to have quite as much time on the board as to what we saw from Hammers when they made their push, but it will still be 2:30 to try to round out this map.
Oh no, Manitros taken out by his own pulse bomb there. We've seen a lot of that actually so far in this series, but nonetheless, they still managed to get that point. Now with a little bit of time to work with to try to close this out. Christopher getting pretty aggressive towards Lelouch there, but certainly we're looking right now to see what he can make of this Dragon Blade. Nano Boost coming up pretty soon here for Len, and I imagine they're going to get very aggressive once that ultimate does come up, and we will see those two come out more than likely to try to push this payload forward.
And it's going to be Christopher getting on top of the payload. He's getting very aggressive. Why is no one punishing him right now? Finally, we're going to see something happen. Nerf charges straight into him, finds that pick along with Danny. And with 150 to go, there's not a lot of time because compared to 102, I mean, 1 minute and 2 seconds isn't the biggest time difference. So as long as they can finish not in overtime, Singularity should have a decent shot for a second push this time around. I'm looking for a big Nano Blade to come out from Lelouch. He's going to pop up in the air, gets the Nano Boost coming out onto him, going to bring out the Dragon Blade, looking for something, but not a whole lot is actually gained from that because of the sound barrier from Tomzy as well as Fisher with the Tactical Visor. Hammers Esports clean up this engagement.
Really nice cleanup, really pivotal cleanup as well, because they were able to shut down Lelouch with that Nano Blade and back them up. Now with the time ticking down around that 1 minute mark, certainly looking good for them as Manitrodster not really getting close to being in a position where you can make use of that Graviton, which is going to be very big for them if they can get it. And now it's really going to come down to this Earth Shatter, and we do see the counter Earth Shatter coming out as well. And Nerf not able to get anything initially, and Hammers Esports might be able to pull this one out.
Sev with the Graviton Surge should be able to clean this one up as the Genji still roaming freely. Kelix as well, trying to get himself back to the spawn. He'll be able to do just that. So will Lelouch. 40 seconds to go. I don't know here. This is looking like either Singularity finishes in overtime, which would give Hammers Esports a minute 02 to push, or we're going to see them, drop the map here and head to a game number 3 again here in this best of 3 series. I'm looking for something from Danny. If he can be a playmaker for these guys, he gets charged into, takes a breather, but Lelouch again going to be the first to go here. Danny as well, and Hammers Esports on the verge of tying this series up.
10 seconds to get back on the point. Very disjointed effort it looks like it's going to be coming out from Singularity to get on that stage of the map. We're seeing Fisher come around and get some high ground at the moment just to try to take advantage of the tac visor that he's going to have in this next fight. As long as he gets off a little bit of damage, he's going to unleash it, looking for some kills onto the backline. Certainly going to be trying to find as much damage as possible, almost taking out multiple members, Danny and Lelouch there, but kind of ultimately not finding anything at all.
Still all 6 up for both sides. We're in overtime now, so Singularity can only hope to just finish the map. Whole Hogs out for Danny, hit with a bio grenade, no follow-up onto him. Lelouch with the Dragon Blade picks up one onto Fisher, looking for something now onto Zarya. Can he get him? Graviton Surge comes out there from Mande. He's looking to finish this one up for his squad. A Shatter hits a couple on the other end of things from Nerf. They're still battling their way back into this. It's just Snizzle Nose remaining, and Singularity are managing to finish out Hollywood.
Now they have a minute and 2 seconds to hold out on the defensive side to keep the dream alive and make this a draw so that they have still that map advantage going into the final third map. But should Hammers Esports actually utilize this minute and a half effectively and move their way into the lead, we will tie this series up, again, moving into that map 3. So no matter what, we will see that third map come out. It's just a question of what the scoreline is going to be. Again, if it does tie up and we go into the map 3 and we do see Hammers Esports taking that, then of course we will go into a tiebreaker, and that map is going to be Oasis. But again, the tiebreaker only applies to ties in the series and not ties on individual maps.
Singularity, like you said, no opportunity to make a stand, or excuse me, make a push, as Hammers Esports only 102. And if I recall correctly, they had no troubles whatsoever getting the first checkpoint here. Last time around, it was very, very quickly. So we'll see if that's going to be the same case this time around. Pretty similar compositions. The only difference is that Lelouch is on the 76 and Fisher with a Genji pickup. We'll see what sort of an impact these basically one DPS players from both teams will be able to make for both these squads as things get underway here. And see if we are going to be moving Hammers Esports up to that, able to tie this one up 1-1 here.
They're going over to that original composition. It worked out well for them last time. 3 tanks, and Fisher, the solo DPS, over on the Genji, and worked out well. We'll have to see if this time it's going to be defensible from the side of Singularity.
Still moving in pretty quickly here. There's a bio grenade connecting from Lin, but Mandy tries to be the first to go down. Lelouch returns fire with one of his own onto Shads here, trying to fight the Reinhardt shields. There's a nice hook from Snizzlenose, picks up the kill on the Danny. Nerf, though, under a lot of pressure. He gets actually the charge comes through, but eventually he's going to be taken down. Hammers Esports now with 20 seconds to go. They've got a massive numbers advantage. It's going to be a, I believe, 5-on-3 on the point itself. Hurix looking to finish off Lelouch. He's going to be taken down. So is Mande Trodster. Reinhardt, excuse me, it's going to be Diva funneling back onto the point along with Kellex, but Hammers Esports surely have this one in the bag.
Yeah, and it is going to go into overtime, but as you said, I think it's just a matter of time before they finally take these guys out, and it will be kind of close, but it looks as though it is going to be with that Dragon Blade and Snizzlenose unleashing the whole hog as well. Perhaps Lelouch looking for an opportunity to go ahead and kill off Fisher, but they're not able to get back on, and that's going to be Hammers Esports tying things up 1-1 now in overtime here on Hollywood.
Now the interesting thing here is what does Singularity want to do with the third map? Do they want to go to Hanamura because they had success on Volskaya Industries, or do they want to head to a map like Nepal that we haven't seen that game mode between these two squads? I think that's the big question mark here for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question mark, I think, on everybody's minds. I mean, the last time we saw Singularity on Nepal, it worked out pretty well for them against Misfits. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nepal actually come out of this map pool here. I mean, certainly I think 2CP or Nepal is the way to go. Nimbani maybe a little bit less so. But, looking at Hammers Esports, they did look good on Nimbani. They did start things off kind of well on Nepal, but I imagine we're going to be seeing either 2CP or King of the Hill. I do not think that Singularity is going to want to go to Nimbani. But again, I was wrong about alternate attacks when they wound up picking up that Hollywood map and actually won that Hollywood map as well. So maybe they have something up their sleeve here, perhaps that we don't necessarily know about. But again, if I was Singularity, I would more than likely pull out Nepal, and then maybe a backup of Hanamura here, and hope that we take that map. But we'll have to wait and see what they're going to pull out.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're going to... I honestly think with what they did on Volskaya, I think Hanamura is the way to go for Singularity. I think the amount of times we see teams who would normally be at a disadvantage on more popular maps like Hollywood, like we just saw there with Hammers Esports and like Kings Row and Nimbani, we see those teams kind of level the playing field on 2CP maps. So Hanamura makes sense for me from Singularity, and it looks like they are. They're going to Nepal. So you were right on that one. We'll see. We're going to have a victor. No ties going to be coming out on Nepal. So it will be a third and final map coming through for you guys today between Singularity and Hammers Esports, our final series of the evening here, X. Now that we know the map, who are you expecting to be able to take this and take the series here?
I actually think, well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think this is going to be a close series. Singularity with Lelouch is certainly, a tough contender, especially for a team like Hammers Esports. I mean, Singularity even looked actually kind of good against Misfits yesterday on Nepal. Obviously, Misfits has shown that they have a little bit of, a little bit of trouble, I would say, on control point map, especially Nepal specifically. But Singularity Ninjas just didn't look that good on Hanamura yesterday up against Misfits. They basically just got ran over on that map, which is why I didn't think that they would go with Hanamura. And obviously with Hammers Esports on Nimbani yesterday, the only map that I think made sense was Nepal here. So I think this is the one that makes the most sense, but Hammers Esports still with a pretty good shot at this one. I think it's going to ultimately wind up being a 3-1 or 3-2 scoreline type of thing. Very, very close between both teams. But ultimately, I think actually Singularity is going to be able to pull out and really impress here. I think we're going to be seeing a stellar performance from Lelouch and Hammers Esports, although we're going to be seeing some really strong moments from them, particularly from guys like Fisher and Snizzlenose. I think Singularity is going to be able to string one out very, very sneakily there and really take advantage of maps like Sanctum, where typically you would probably assume Hammers Esports is going to be able to win those out because of their tank line is just so good. They're so consistent with it. But again, I'm going to be putting my money here on, I guess, the underdog of Singularity in this matchup.
Really? Okay. I'm thinking Hammers Esports. I like their performance there in Hollywood. I'm probably thinking that, given that, this is a little bit more of a map they probably have a little bit more practice on compared to like Volskaya Industries, for instance. I'm going to go with them to be able to take the series 2-1 here and put themselves at an overall 2-0 record to match themselves with Misfits, which should be an interesting, a mesh of teams in terms of where they're at throughout Group B here. But we are good to go here. We are going to be heading to Nepal for the third and final map of this series and see what both teams want to actually be breaking out here on the side of compositions. As I don't expect to see anything too crazy, but this is actually the point of Nepal, which you sometimes do see a Junkrat, which Fisher is hovering over right now.
I don't think that he's going to be sticking with that. I think he's going to be going over to the Soldier more than likely. Again, yesterday we saw some great stuff from Lelouch, just running flanking routes on the Soldier. Worked out very well for them. I imagine he's going to be trying to do the same thing here. We do see Kellex at the moment on a Mercy, but I think it's very likely we see a 3-tank strat from both sides using a Soldier. I think it's going to be mirrors in terms of the composition, and it's going to be what you see on the right side of your screen there, with the exception of Fisher more than likely going over to the Soldier. But I mean, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's going to be how it is.
Let's see. Probably going to be the case. He's actually, are we going to see this? We are going to see the Orisa come out from Fisher here. The first one we've seen all day. It should be pretty good for the choke points here. Let's see what they're able to make of it.
I'm not even sure if this character is even allowed. It's going to be up to the admins, though. So looks like they're pulling it out anyways. Admin's not saying anything, so it is going to come out. He is going to be pulling this one out, and it's definitely going to give them a little bit of an advantage in the shield war, but that's not going to amount to anything, as already Singularity is just running them over at the moment.
Just domination from the get-go from Mande, and they only end up losing Nerf in the mix of things, so Singularity coming out on top in the first engagement. Definitely a good way to start, and Fisher now over to the Genji here to see, what sort of impact he's able to make with that rather than on that Orisa like we had seen just momentarily. So brief life, very short-lived coming out there. There's a charge coming through as well from both sides. Nerf's going to be the first to go down again, but Mande is nearly fully charged here. He needs to be very careful. Seth comes through with that kill, and Hammers Esports now getting on the aggression.
So that Orisa definitely didn't work out for them too well, but able to win out that second fight and now getting control of the point. Sev getting kind of low, but they still have that extra help there from Snizzlenose, and they should be able to back these guys up completely. Shaz, gonna get taken out there by Lelouch, and he's gonna go ahead with that tactical visor in a great position to get the most of it, but actually Fisher gonna slide over, find that dash kill, and open things back up for Singularity to hold on to this point, flip it back in their favor.
Still a couple of guys for Hammers remaining here. No, it's not going to last too much longer. Christopher and Fisher both going to be taken down. And Singularity, just like that, flipped that one and back in their favor. Very short-lived on the side of Hammers. Only 21% on the board for these guys. And going into the next fight, they've got 4 to 5 ultimates to work with, since Sev is about 85% here. They very well could turn this back in their favor, but they're going to start out with a nano boost onto Nerf. Whole hog straight into him from Snizzle, though, is going to push him up in the air, make sure that nano boost doesn't really accomplish anything for the most part here. Hammers Esports pick up a couple of kills. We'll see if they're able to find anything. Nice pick coming out there on the side of Danny, who's so low right now. He's eventually going to be taken down, and Hammers Esports are going to be able to return fire and flip this in their favor.
Still, I mean, look at Kellogg's just holding up here, just staying alive, just dacking up on this point. And he's actually going to be finally taken down. A Graviton Surge at the ready for Sev. Manatrods are going to be in a position to get one of his own as well. And they get Biotic Grenade. Charge coming out onto Sev, and he's going to be taken out. That's a huge pickup for these guys who are definitely hoping to make the most of Manatrods' Graviton and push this one forward, now not having to deal with that opposition.
There's a pull, though. Mande using his projected barrier a little too early onto the sleeping Reinhardt, which meant that it was an easy pick coming out there for Snizzlenose. Despite that, Mande is fully charged. Gonna pop the Graviton Surge. Only hits Snizzle in the end, but he melts him down. Delucio eventually will be sucked into that one. Picks up 2 kills off of this, just like that. Singularity pull this one back in their favor, hitting 75%, though it will be Mande getting booped off if I'm not mistaken, but plenty of time for him to get back.
And Lelouch just looking for an opportunity to finish out the rest of that charge so he can have that nano visor for his team going into this next fight. And this is going to be basically it. I mean, if Singularity wins this fight, that's the map along with it. And Lelouch in a great position to try to get the most out of that nano visor.
Olha comes out there, so does the Graviton Surge. We're going to see Lelouch with the Tactical Visor picking up 2 kills immediately. Hit by the Earthshatter, though, but they don't even make it back in time. Singularity, a convincing round number 1 here on the poll.
Very convincing indeed. Moving now into that second map, and said before, Singularity definitely very consistent on Sanctum. The question becomes, what map are they going to be able to take otherwise? I mean, we might see Sanctum up. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is confirmed for the most part, or like statistically it's very strong that we'll see Sanctum again as it was the first map. I'm not really sure how that works, but nonetheless, if they get Sanctum again, I imagine we should see a pretty nice 2-0 in favor of Singularity, but the question becomes, can they win one of the other maps, and is Sanctum going to come out again anyways? I mean, Hammers Esports now needs to take pretty much all of these other ones if they want to have a good shot in terms of winning this one out and taking this series.
This is going to be tough. I think you were right about Singularity with your prediction, at least from what I saw there in round number 1. If I could change it, I definitely would right now, just given what we just saw as Lelouch is looking for a bit of a flank. He gets hooked in, though. He's the first to go down. Not a good start for these guys, as they are going to be forced to back up a little bit and maybe look for a pick from Danny if possible, but doesn't seem to be the case here. They're just buying all the time they can until they can get back into this or get their 6th member back into this. Mande, though, finding that pick onto Snizzlenose, and Singularity now going to be able to press forward. They actually capture the point mid-fight, and that's going to be Hammers Esports just falling back and getting picked off.
And Shaz going to be taken out as well, as Minotrodster really just lighting the feed up with kills. Another one for him and Fisher. And somehow Nerfed has not died in this one. I'm not sure exactly how that actually happened, but he was taken down very low on 2 separate occasions, kept alive by Kellogg's and Lind there, who are now Lind has his nano boost at the ready. Minotrodster are getting pretty close to getting off that Graviton Surge. I imagine we're going to be seeing it in this next one. Look how much energy this guy has. 90 energy, looking for an opportunity to make the most of it and find some damage inside of his own Graviton, and that's at the ready. Now they're ready to go with it. I imagine they're going to try to get into the back line a little bit here once he gets healed up.
They don't even need it, though. They found the pick onto Snizzle. There's no reason for them to use any ultimates. Mande, though, is going to be able to get fully charged still. Heals, or actually keeps himself alive thanks to the particle barrier there, and good heals coming out from Lind. And like I said, Hurix, they found the pick onto Snizzle. That was just stupid for Hammers Esports to move in. I didn't see any reason whatsoever for them to just waste even more time and feed Singularity even more ult charge.
Yeah, with Christopher jumping in. Ooh, the Graviton coming out, finding 3 right on top of it. No Biotic going to be able to get there, as it's going to be an absolute bloodbath between these two teams. Lelouch actually going to be dropped there by Fisher, as he's the only person able to jump in on that one.
That was Fisher coming out with the big ultimate there, as Lelouch actually had the Dragon Blade out. Even so, still a few members of Singularity remaining on the point here, trying to turn this back in their favor. Still taking up to 99% would be a victory, I think, for Singularity in the grand scheme of things. Even if they do end up losing the point, they're going to try to funnel back into this one, as Nerf is now in the mix here, has an Earthshatter. They return fire, get Tomsy and Christopher both taken down here. They get Chaz, and just like that, Singularity turn it back in their favor, Hurix. They're going to be able to take round number 2, and now 1 round away from taking this series.
How did they not kill off Danny at all? I mean, Danny was just untouched on the point when they were trying to clean up, and an inability to finish there was the reason why Singularity was able to hold on and bring back some ults. Manitrodster with that second Graviton Surge of the map, and now moving on into this last map. Again, you have to wonder, Hammers Esports, are they going to be able to take any of these? Because certainly if Sanctum comes around, you have to imagine Singularity is going to be able to take that once again. They're just very consistent on that particular map here on Nepal, but does look like we're going to be seeing that 3-tank strat again come out with Lelouch over on the Genji, and a mirror composition coming out as well from the side of Hammers Esports. Again, I would probably call this very typical of Hammers Esports, but interesting that Singularity has been matching them up and actually performing very well with it.
I am so impressed from Singularity here on Nepal. Absolutely stunned at what they've been able to do, especially in that last round, the 100-0 victory and multiple comebacks in those fights. We'll have to see if they're able to keep it up here, or if Hammers Esports can pull the reverse sweep. There's a nice hook to get things underway from Snizzle. 2 kills now in the bag here as Nerf is going to be taken down, and I'm assuming they should be able to just move through here and come up with their first points of Village and get their first points, I think, for the first time here of Nepal.
We'll see Fisher now setting up top now. Rest of the team following suit as well, just getting up on that high ground, ready to contest for that second fight that will be coming their way. Again, mirror composition, so no team with anything different to bring to the table. And we will see it.
Honestly, I'm looking for the approach, honestly, coming out from these guys. And Snizzle to find the picks just like he did here. Actually, Lelouch was deflecting for a moment's time, but Snizzle easily just catching him out. If he can continue this, there's another pick for this guy. If Snizzle keeps on this trend, Hammers Esports should be in a decent position to try to take this round. They have massive ult advantage as well, moving into the next several fights.
Certainly in a great position to hold out on this one, especially with Sev just so far away from Manitrodster this time around with that Graviton Surge, so that his team has definitely been winning these fights very decisively. Nonetheless, we will see Sev looking for an opportunity for that one. Does manage to get it up. He puts it right in the back line in a great position to make the most of it. They should find 3 kills on that. They do indeed. And now it's just about cleanup.
Hammers Esports, something has certainly sparked here on Village in the 3rd round, knowing that the first 2 clearly were just, weren't in their favor, weren't really doing a whole lot right, and using just 1 ultimate there from Sev, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to round out that team fight. Now, moving into the next one, since it's been so long, 75% on the board for Hammers. There is a lot to work with from both ends of things. There's the Dragon Blade coming out from Lelouch. He gets nano boosted up here, looking for something, and finds one. So does Fisher, though, as he's going to be taken out in the end. Sound Barrier comes through, maybe a little late there from Tomzy, as he didn't really save too many guys, but it doesn't matter at 90%. As long as they can hold on, Bjorgs, they should be able to come through. Only Nerf and Kelix are alive, coming off of Respawn, and that's going to be Hammers Esports at least taking 1 round here on Nepal.
And very solid performance in doing so, especially here from Sev. I mean, obviously some great picks coming out from Snizzlenose. It definitely felt like Lelouch was dealt with throughout that entire map. But I think the biggest performance there was from Sev, who was able to just find so much damage. I mean, definitely had the spacing to do it. Of course, the rest of his team has to be commended because they were the reason why he was able to find that much damage, and especially that nano boost as well. But now we're going on to Sanctum. And again, we have to remember that this is a pretty solid map for Singularity, but Hammers Esports, with that last performance we saw there on Village, are they going to be able to bring the firepower to the table to be able to turn this back around and start their way on this reverse sweep, perhaps?
This is the final map, guys. I mean, both these teams are tied up 1-1 here, and Hammers Esports going to have to take 2 more rounds in a row here. Pull out the reverse sweep on Nepal if they want to come out and take start with a 2-0 record here in the Group B group stage here. But we'll have to see, as they didn't do too well on this point this time around, or last time around. Nerf is going to be the first to drop. So is Snizzle. So it's a 1-for-1 trade, but they lost their Reinhardt, which really hurts Singularity because they can't really afford to move in unless they find picks specifically from Danny on the road.
We will see Lelouch just sliding over. Again, we just know this guy just loves to get in these flanking positions, taking advantage of that sight line that he gets on the point. Christopher just going ahead with 2 kills to start things off. Manitrodster finding one of his own onto Christopher to shut him down a bit. But again, this is just going to be a bloodbath on the point to determine who was victor. But Singularity has control of the node here.
They're going to go ahead and pop the Dragon Blade from Fisher with about 40 HP, and honestly, it was pretty worth it. I'd say they used a nano boost onto Sev. Thankfully, he didn't drop his ultimate in that mix. Otherwise, it would have been a little wasted. So extremely short 14% put on the board there on the side of Singularity as Hammers make the flip and will easily be able to find themselves with a lead here. As we look for the Graviton Surge now from Sev. There's a couple of kills coming through, more than likely. Pick up 2 no on the other side. This is maybe Singularity battling their way back into this.
But Singularity is going to lose their tank there and nerfed, and as well the Ana. So 2 very, very important features of the composition to be able to make these comebacks, and that doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Lelouch should be picked off as well by Sev there up in that corner especially, and now Hammers Esports looking like they have control over the Sanctum at the moment. Certainly we'll see Singularity able to battle back pretty convincingly in this next fight, as they have generated 5 of their ultimates, very close to getting a 6th in the form of Kelix's sound barrier. But still, I mean, positional advantage and Hammers Esports favor. We'll have to see what that's actually going to amount to.
There's no reason whatsoever Singularity shouldn't win this team fight with 5 to 6 ultimates to work with. Nerf was taken down. They used a whole hog straight into the Graviton Surge to seal 3 kills for themselves here, but they still haven't flipped. They still have to deal with Sev on the point as Lelouch is going to be taken down. It's a 2-on-1 here, make it a 3-on-1. This will be Singularity finding themselves with the flip, but at 69 to 15%, Singularity are going to have to battle back. Thankfully, Herox, they still held on to 4 ults from that last fight.
Yeah, nerfed with an Earth Shatter here. Certainly looking for Lelouch and Lin to come together with a Nano Visor. I mean, he's going right into that same exact spot that we've seen him go in. I mean, certainly they have to be aware of this, because this is a play that they go for all the time, and Lelouch is going to let it go.
There's a Graviton Surge from Sev. Fisher as well with the Dragon Blade. What can he get done? He's trying to find a few, but no, Lelouch gets 2 with the Tactical Visor from the point itself. Make it a 3rd one as Sizzle Nose will be taken down. That's going to be Singularity maintaining control here of the point in round number 4. Nice heals coming out onto Sev. The Bio Grenade is going to be taken down in the end, but this is basically the Lelouch on the Soldier 76 show, at least in that last fight it was.
I mean, that's just the play they always make. You have to wonder, I mean, Did Hammers Esports do their homework? Because, again, that's just something that you see consistently there from Lelouch, and he just gets into that position and does the exact same thing. Now he's already at 55% given his performance after that ult came out, and that's going to be dangerous here, as they already taken the lead here on the point.
Christopher gets the nano boost up here. What does he find from it? Nerf bringing out the Earth Shatter. They find a couple of kills off of it. Oh my goodness, Christopher actually... He was saved there by the sleep dart. He would have charged into nothing, but ultimately he was going to be taken down anyways here, so they just lose a little bit more time, which is really rough. So that sleep dart from Lind does pay off. They've got 8 seconds to get back. He's still coming up. They've got a lot to work with. The whole hog to push him back here in the waiting room. Do they have enough to get back to the point in time? The Nano Visor's up. 2 kills on the board for Lelouch. That's going to be Singularity taking 3-1 on Nepal, taking the 2-1 series, and getting themselves up to a 1-1 record.
I hate to say I told you so, Storm, but...
You did tell me so.
But I told you so.
You did, man. I mean, I still got you up at about probably 50 to 100 predictions, but overall, so...
Fair enough, fair enough. Nonetheless, very good performance here, especially on their map, I would say, Sanctum here on Nepal. To be able to close things out here, Singularity with, I don't know if I want to call it an upset, but... I guess a little bit of an upset, onto Hammers Esports. We haven't seen too much of them lately, of course, ever since their signing, but certainly very solid team, worthy of an invite. But Singularity definitely showing that they deserve their spot after taking it from LDLC, who had to bow out. And I don't know, man, definitely looking good for these guys. Definitely looking good for all these teams. To perform in this group stage. Alternate Attack's the only team without a series win, but even they're not really looking that far away from the opposition. We'll have to see what they're able to accomplish, versus teams like Singularity. But given this victory, I think the rest of these guys are kind of setting themselves apart a little bit. Misfits, again, kind of in a league of their own. Dignitas trying to battle back. Movistar definitely making a name for themselves. And it's just going to be a question of who's going to be able to take that 4th spot. Certainly looking like it's going to be between Singularity and Hammers Esports. But Singularity with that win now, kind of giving themselves an advantage going into that brackets for sure.
Yeah, the impressive games all around today. Very, very long ones. We had 2 3-game series from Dignitas and X Alternate Attacks, and then Singularity and Hammers there. And even Movistar, like you said, up against Misfits was a pretty close series. So a lot more action still yet to come between these EU teams here in Group B. Tomorrow we have 3 more matches coming from both myself and Hurix, starting at the same time tomorrow. It's going to be Dignitas up against Misfits for the first one. Then we're going to see Singularity Ninjas going up against X Alternate Attacks. And then Hammers Esports will be taking on Movistar Riders. Just a quick picture of the standings. Misfits is at the top here. They're at 2-0. We do have 4 teams tied at 1-1, and then X Alternate Attacks sitting at 0-2. So after the second day, I don't know. What do you make of these standings?
Well, I think, again, as we talked about before, Misfits kind of in a league of their own in this particular grouping. I would say more than likely to take out the whole tournament. I think Misfits probably in a position to say that pretty conclusively, but well, there's obviously still a lot of games to go. Certainly some upsets could happen, as we've already seen that in the group stages. And the rest of it kind of makes sense. Dignitas, I think, should have been a little bit higher, should have been able to beat 2-0 right alongside Misfits. But again, still Movistar Riders really kind of impressing, I think, with their performance so far, maybe making a play for that second place seed. And Singularity with their win over Hammers Esports today, definitely looking good, especially, I mean, in particularly Lelouch. His performance has been stellar throughout, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Singularity is able to do since taking that spot from LDLC in this particular grouping stage.
Yeah, like I said, we are going to be back tomorrow. It will be Hurix and myself again, which is about 3.5 hours ago tomorrow with all 3 of those matchups. I also do want to say North America starts tomorrow evening as well to get all their Group A stage underway. Really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. But that is going to be it from us. I'm Storm, and he is Hurix with me today, guys. Give us a follow on Twitter as well. Follow the channel to keep up to date with all the Overwatch Pit stuff. We will be back tomorrow with Group B once again. Thank you all for tuning in this evening, and we will see you then. Have a good night.